Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Combat Sports UK. I'm here with Andre Petroski, UFC middleweight. Andre, how are you getting on?
Life's good, man. Got to fight, so I'm excited.
Yeah, good. I was just about to ask, your fight coming up. You've got your fight against Jacob Malkoun just over a month away. In terms of sort of preparation time compared to your last fight, obviously, there's quite a staggering difference compared to the short notice fight last time around. How's the camp going so far? Have you taken any lessons away from you've now moved on to a much longer camp? What's the main differences in preparation?
Yeah, so I've had this is my sixth fight now, and I've had three short notice fights and then three full camps. So my three short notice fights were 10 days, 2 weeks, and there's benefits to both. Obviously, there's perks to taking short notice fights. The UFC has taken care of me, and they make it enticing in order for me to accept a short notice fight against a guy like Pereira. But the camps are good, man, because then you get to prepare and you really get to spend weeks developing and building a game plan around a specific opponent and working on your your weaknesses going into it. So I like both, man. Like being a student of the game, I'm a lifelong martial artist. So being a lifelong martial artist and a student, I love, solving a problem. You have a problem, Jacob Malkoun, and you solve it. You work, you do your homework and you solve it. I love that. But on the other hand, I also love just saying fuck it and going out and fighting. You know what I mean? If it's, that's the perks of a short notice fight too. 10 days, it's all right, there's no time to sit down and go through the drawing board. It's all right, fuck it. We're we're at the grocery store and someone cut us off. We just got to fight. So, I mean, there's perks to both. I like them. I like both of them.
Yeah, good. So when, obviously you like both of them just as much as each other. When you have the short notice fights, in terms of mentality, is there a mindset change that you go through? So short notice fight, like you said, it's a case of, right, we're fighting. Whereas, a much sort of longer notice fight, it's a sort of more maybe meticulous preparation. What's the main sort of mindset differences that you find between the two of them?
Yeah, exactly what you said. But also when it's short notice, it's more like fuck it, let's just go do this. It's not as much pressure because I guess at the end of the day, this is the deck that you've been given, and you just got to do the best you can with the cards you have.
Yeah, exactly. So when you take these short notice fights, you take these long fights. You've been in the UFC for quite a few years now, ever since that Ultimate Fighter season. You're 5-1, coming out of your last loss against Michel Pereira. Do you think that maybe the sort of short notice direction that you have taken in a few of your fights, do you still think that you'd be happy to take those sort of fights down the line, or maybe you'll maybe rethink the risk reward ratio?
Look, at the end of the day, it's high risk, high reward. The reason why it's high reward is because nobody wants to fight Michel Pereira on 10 days notice. That's just what it is. Everybody said no, right? So it's high risk, and that's why nobody wants to do it. But that's why it's high reward, because nobody wants to do it. So it is what it is, Yeah,
exactly. And so the coming off that fight, it being your first UFC loss, how did you, in terms of lessons taken, is there anything that you're taking specifically from that fight into the next camp, or is it more of a case of, it's a short notice fight, it kind of is what it is, we're just going to keep, sailing the same way we were going in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, both. I mean, I don't regret accepting the fight because, it put me in a much better position. But at the same time, I do think that, being a little bit smarter in the future about just like where my weight's at. My weight was a big part of it, and when I cut 24 pounds from Monday to Friday for that fight. Not trying to make excuses, but what the point I'm getting at is what I learned is if I can walk around a little bit lighter, when I don't have a fight, that those opportunities when they come, they're a little bit more reasonable. If they call me, it's basic numbers. Like if they call me and they need me to fight in 2 weeks and I'm 40 pounds overweight, that's tough. But if they call me and they need me to fight in 2 weeks and I'm 20 pounds overweight, like it's a much different situation. So I think it's a matter of being more disciplined outside of camp as far as like keeping my weight down.
So has that typically been sort of not an issue, but something to consider? Is that, how has the weight cut always been? Has it been a tough cut, or has it just been sort of like a long?
No, and when I have a full camp, it's not an issue. It's been, I do it right. I descend slowly. I come down from like 220, then I come down slowly so that it's like a 10-pound water cut, but when it's 10 days notice, you don't have that type of luxury. So, it ended up being a 25-pound water cut. So, yeah, it's just, and the more you do those, 25 pounds weight cuts, the more you start to balloon up afterwards. Your body goes into like starvation mode where it starts holding weight more. So you start to get a little bit bigger. So it's really about just like staying disciplined and keeping that like flatten that curve. Not as much of a drastic up and down.
Yeah, because there are quite a few fighters sort of more recently that struggle to maintain that discipline outside of camp. The people tend to balloon, tend to struggle more with the weight cut. So you'd say that that's sort of the main takeaway from the short notice fights, is that okay, I need to possibly maybe be a little bit lighter walking around in the future.
Yeah, definitely one of them.
Fantastic. So, like I said, you've been in the UFC for a few years now. You're returning on the 30th of March, I believe it is. You're fighting in front of a crowd again. Your last couple fights have been mixture of crowd and Apex. When you're fighting in front of the crowd, do you find that it's, what do you prefer? Do you prefer fighting in front of the crowd, or do you prefer fighting in the Apex?
I would say 99 times out of 100, I would rather fight in front of the crowd.
Yeah. What the reasons behind that?
I would say that one time is if I'm gonna get knocked out by Michelle Pereira.
Yeah. I think
So
that's pretty fair enough.
that was a good time to be in the Apex.
Yeah. So with the Apex, obviously with the lack of the crowd and things like that, do you find that maybe your fighting style mentality wise, do you find yourself possibly without the crowd driving you, maybe fighting a little bit slower? Like, what's the main differences in your brain when you're fighting in front of the crowd and not?
So I remember when I fought Turman in MSG, I was pretty tired, and this was like end of the second or maybe end of the third, and my coach is yelling. I have him from his back, and he's on his feet, and my coach is yelling, Matt return, like lift and Matt return, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm fucking tired, right? I don't want to feel like lifting this motherfucker up, so I lift him. And I Matt return him, and the whole crowd just starts chanting, USA, USA. And I remember being like, I immediately forgot that I was tired. Like I immediately was like, oh, hell yeah, like let's go. And he ended up getting back to his feet, and I Matt returned him again. And then the second time I Matt returned him, he stopped trying to get up. And I just remember like, bro, like the crowd is special, the crowd is special, and not a lot of people get to experience that in life, so I definitely appreciate the crowd.
Yeah, good. And on top of that as well, the Apex, there's a lot of criticism about the cage. I think it's about 5 feet smaller than the cage outside of the cage in like an arena event. As someone who's fought in both arena events and the Apex, do you know if the cage make? Does the cage make much of a difference, or is it not really once you're in there that noticeable?
Personally, I feel like the size of the cage, the factor of the size of the cage is a little hyped up, if you're asking me. I think, like, obviously it's easier for me to say I'm a grappler, so I don't mind being in close quarters, but is it really that much difference? I don't think so. I certainly don't notice a huge difference. Yeah, I mean, I'm at a point in my career where I'm good. We can strike, we can grapple. It don't matter to me. So the size of the cage don't really make a difference.
Yeah, and obviously that
We
won't.
could be in the grocery store. I'm still ready.
Yeah, fantastic. So, obviously that won't make much of a difference anyway coming up because you'll be fighting in front of a crowd again. You're fighting Jacob Malkoun, the Australian. How much do you know about, without giving away too much, how much do you know about Jacob Malkoun, and what do you think your approach will be in your upcoming fight?
I've been watching him for a little while now. I watched him because I beat Maximov when he was undefeated, and then Maximov's next fight he fought Malkoun. So I started watching Malkoun from then, and then when they offered me him back for Boston, or no, they offered me Malkoun for Singapore last year. This was right before I fought Mearshart. They offered me Malkoun, so I had done even more research back then, and I love the opponent. You know what I mean? It's a grappler's delight. He at one point had the highest takedown ratio of any fighter in the UFC, and that's right up my alley. I'm been continuing to make this argument that I'm the best grappler in the division. So for me, that's just another feather in my cap. That's just another accolade.
So
And
you
I
see
think
it.
it's the perfect fight to display like how much better I am at grappling than these guys.
Yeah, I was just about to say, so you see it as like a test almost, like like if I'm going up against someone with some of the best grappling in the division and I'm out grappling them, it's like a showcase of your skills more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, like if I'm trying to make the argument that I'm the best grappler, I went up and I went against Maximov, who was undefeated, was out grappling everyone, submitted him in a minute. Then I grappled Anders, submitted him quickly. Then I grappled OSP, and then I fought Mearshart, who had the most submissions in the division, beat him. And then now Malkoun, who has the best takedown ratio. So it's like I just continue to prove every which way.
Yeah, so with all that wrestling and the grappling practice, I'm sure that I'm sure that you're practicing very hard right now in training camp. How is that training camp going on? Is it sort of, how far into the camp are you?
But we're about 6 weeks out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you're not quite, in you sort of just at the start or just at the end. Like, how long is a typical camp for you?
Well, like I said, it could be today. We could walk into the grocery store, or it could be 10 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It depends on the fight for sure. This one I have been training. I have been training hard for the past month. Granted, I did go out to Vegas for a week with Joey for that Hermanson fight. And I was doing a whole bunch of testing at the PI for like 2 or 3 days. So I didn't really do as much training in Vegas as I would when I was home. But I think it was really important. The PI came up with a whole, whole plan, a whole 6-week plan leading up to the fight to improve my conditioning, my mobility, like everything that, they do a tremendous job over there. The head guy's name's Roman, and you'll do all these strength and conditioning assessments, and then they'll able to compare it to the rest of the guys in the division. So you can kind of see like where your power is, your strength, your mobility compared to everyone else. And based on what your weaknesses are, they'll come up with a whole plan on how to improve it. And I mean, I was very impressed by those guys over there. They're obviously, top notch, the best guys in the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's invaluable, all the hard work you've been doing. You said you've been training for a month. You said you're still 6 weeks out, so there's still quite a lot of work to go. when you're not working that hard in your training camp, what are the main ways that you sort of unwind outside of your fights?
So my daughter is 4. She's like the love of my life.
Mhm.
We have a lot of fun. She's cool, man. She's at like 4 is like a good age, you know. I would say like the first years kind of sucks, to be honest. At least for the dad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my daughter was breastfed up until 18 months, so she was really just only wanted her mom in the first year and a half. But 4 is cool, man. They have a personality. Like, she's just so funny. Like,
Mhm.
I literally, yeah, I have a good time with her. Had her all weekend. So yeah, I just, chill with my daughter and hang out, man. I'm a pretty chill dude.
Yeah, I can tell.
Try not to get in too much trouble, you know?
Yeah, good.
Just like a medium amount of trouble. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, respectable amount of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you what, Vegas was not as eventful as I thought it was going to be. With the Super Bowl being out there,
Mhm.
that's all right. We're in camp.
Yeah, so when if you're in camp and you're trying to recover outside of training, a lot of people are sort of going on to things like ice baths and sort of stem cell
Yeah,
treatments, things like that. They've all
yeah,
been very sort of trendy lately. Are you sort of on that same pathway as everybody else?
yeah, yeah. So I'm here at my gym right now. I actually got the cold plunge.
Mhm.
My Henner Gracie was my coach on was Brian Ortega's coach, and he was my coach on The Ultimate Fighter. So he hooked me up with the cold plunge, and dude, it's definitely next to the cold plunge at the UFC PI. This is the definitely the most brutal one that I've been in, because it's
Yeah.
like moving water, which makes it like twice as hard for your body to create that like thermal layer. Like
Mhm.
most ice baths go in, and then like after 30 seconds, you like just go numb, or your body creates like a thermal layer of like warmth. But with the moving water, it makes it like twice as hard. But yeah, I've been
Yeah.
doing them like at least 3 days a week, and I notice a huge difference. Like, I just feel like mentally more calm like throughout the day. And yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I've heard with the moving ones, obviously where it's moving in a circle. When you're in a normal ice bath or a cold plunge, you kind of make that layer, but where it's moving and it's splashing up on your neck and things like that, places of your body that you're not quite used to it's much more of a shock.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, the like the ice the cold shower,
Mhm.
like I don't think I get as much like of a benefit from it, but I think it's worse, to be honest. Because
Yeah.
it's like it just sucks the whole time. At least with like the cold plunge, like it sucks for 30 seconds, but then like after that, it's like it sucks much less.
Yeah.
With the cold shower, it just you never get comfortable.
Yeah. Well,
But
it sounds like you're working very hard. It sounds like you've got unfortunately it seems like we lost Andre. I'm not too sure what happened there, but either way, we'd like to thank Andre for his time. We really do appreciate it, and we would like to wish him luck in his bout in 6 weeks' time. Thank you very much. That's been Combat Sports UK. I've been Billy. I'll see everybody later. Goodbye.